Hello and welcome back to another riveting episode of Gillespie Teaches Code.org. Ha ha ha. Today we are going to talk about the second half of Lesson 25, the game design process. And our question of the day is, how does having a plan help us make a large project easier? So the last video, part 1, we left off on Bubble 7, control your player. So we're going to start with Bubble 8, Sprite Interactions today. Sprite Interactions. So let's see what we have waiting for us on the other side. All right. So if the enemies get all the way across the cake, you should place them back at the left side of the screen. Sorry about that. And decrease the score. To start, you'll write code for only one of the enemies. Do this. Inside the enemy's touch cake function, use a conditional to detect whether enemy 1 has touched the cake. If it has, loop the enemy back to the left side of the screen. Set its Y position to be a random number between 150 and 250. Use the counter pattern to decrease the score by 2. And then test your code. If one of your ladybugs should now reset when it gets across to the cake, and the score should go down by 2. And keep in mind, everything we're doing here is connected to later levels. So let's find this enemy touches cake function. All right, so there's the draw. There's the game background. Here's enemy touch cake. So if enemy 1 is touching cake, enemy 1 X gets 0, enemy 1 Y gets random number 150 to 250, and score is going to go down by 2. Now we are going to add in the second part of this. If enemy 2 is touching cake, and you know what? I'm going to try something. Watch me. I'm going to hit show text. I'm going to highlight this. Be very careful. I'm going to go Command C because we're on a Mac. I'm going to go right here to line 50. Give me a space. I'm going to go Command V for victory. And instead of enemy 1, I'm going to change these over to enemy 2. Now, if copy paste is too much for you to handle, you are more than welcome to do it the other way. Whoops, you need to correct an error. What's wrong with my error function? Enemy's cake, if enemy 1, if enemy 2, unmatched. Oh, I have an unmatched rotation somewhere. Maybe at the very end. Here, let's do this. Doop. All right, there we go. Okie dokie, troubleshooting at its best. And then sometimes you get these little gray things when you copy paste. They're just leftover bits of comment tag. Just get rid of them. Okie dokie. So I have an if enemy 2 is touching cake, which matches my if enemy 1 is touching cake. So now, whenever my little ladybugs go down and touch the cake, I should notice that score decreases. We got decreased by 4 because they're both touching the cake. All right, let's hit the finish button and move on, or hit pause if you need to see that code some more. Da-da-da! Bubble 9, touching the cake, second ladybug. Oh, I guess I already did Bubble 9. All right, folks, I had to pause for just a second. So I think what I said before was we already did Bubble 9 because we added enemy 2. So one more time, right down here under function enemy touch cake, we had said enemy 1 is touching cake, and then we also have the same exact thing set up for enemy 2 is touching cake. So that means Bubble 9 is now done. Go ahead and pause if you need to, or hit finish if you're ready to go. Da-da-da! Now we're going to create functions. Your program now includes code in 2 places that set the enemies on the left side of the screen at a random Y location. You can create functions to reset each of your two enemies to remove repetitions from your program. This will make your program run easier to read, allow you to change it more easily, and allow you to quickly reset your sprites at other points in your program if you need to. Do this. At the bottom of your program, create two new functions, set enemy 1 and set enemy 2. Inside each of these functions, place the code that sets the enemies on the left side of the screen and gives them a random Y position. Wherever the code for set enemy 1 and set enemy 2 appears in your program, replace them with a call to functions you just created. Okay, so we're going to start with do 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 do. Okay, move player, displace enemies. Okay, so we are going here with function, and it said to create a set enemy 1. So set, come on computer, set enemy 1, and then we're going to create another one for set enemy 2. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at what we already have for enemy 1. Up here. Okay, so for enemy 1, I'm actually going to pull these things here and pull these down. So notice I drag, drop, highlight. I'm moving them on down. Down, down, down. And I'm going to drop them in here. And we'll do the same thing for set enemy 2. Highlight these, drag them on down. Okay, so now I got to look for where I used information about the enemies. There's enemy 1, enemy 2. Okay, so right here, so instead of this, instead of enemy 1x gets 0 and enemy 1y gets random number, I'm going to pull this out, and instead I'm going to put in here set enemy 1. Okay, and then the same thing right here for enemy 2, x and y. I'm instead going to put set enemy 2. All right, let me verify here. Yep, I did use the capitalization. All right, so now let's see if my program runs still. Ooh, it does not run still. Maybe I need my velocities out. I might have added velocities and shouldn't have. Okay, grab my velocities and move them back up here. Move, 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 move. Move, 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 move. It's taking a long time to drag. It shouldn't have taken so long. Okay, here we go. Enemy 1, velocity x, enemy 2, velocity x. All right, now let's see if it runs. What did I do wrong? I know what I did wrong. I forgot to put set enemy 1 and set enemy 2. Much better. All right, so to recap for this one, we pulled the x and y out of the variable enemy 1 and variable enemy 2 at the top. We went all the way down here and we created a set enemy 1 and set enemy 2 and put those x and y positions in there as functions. And then we pulled out the x and y in our function enemies touch cake, and instead you use the create function block to replace that. So this was a lot. I know. If you need to pause, do that. If you need to rewind a little bit, go right ahead. And if you're ready, hit finish. All right, let's move on to Bubble 11. Bubble 11. It's time to write code for some more sprite interactions. Your player sprite should displace the enemy sprites. Do this. For this level, you'll write code inside the displace enemies function. Write code that makes player displace both enemy sprites. Test the program to make sure your player is displacing enemies, but they keep moving right after the player moves away. Hint, you can use asprite.debug to see your sprites' colliders if you need to debug your program. Okay, so we're going to go down here and look at move player. Okay, so displace enemies. So we want displace right here. So it is player displace enemy 1 and player displace enemy 2. Let me test it. So my character should push them out of the way. Whoa, I like flew off the map here. Okay, holy moly, maybe I moved too fast. Okay, so far so good. Okay, alrighty then. So let me double check to make sure. Write code that makes player displace both enemies. Test your program to see if the player displaces enemies, but they keep moving right after the player moves away. Okay, so far so good. We didn't need to debug. So what did I do? I added code between line 79 and 82. We did player displace enemy 1 and player displace enemy 2. I'm guessing that in the next bubble we're going to tackle when enemies touch water. Pause if you need, hit finish if you don't. Da-da-da! Aha, and I was right. So touching the water, the last part of the game that you'll need to write is the code to reset the sprites when they touch the water. Luckily, you should have written functions that reset each sprite, so you'll just need a good way to know when either sprite leaves the bridge. Start by writing the code for a single enemy and then copy paste to make small changes to create code for the second enemy. Do this. For this level, you'll write code inside the enemy touch water function. Use an if statement to check whether enemy 1 is off the top of the bridge by checking whether its y value is below 140 within your if statement. Use your set enemy 1 function to reset the sprite. Add 1 to the score. Use an if statement to check whether enemy 1 is off the bottom of the bridge by checking whether the y value is above 260. Within your statement, use your enemy 1 function to reset the sprite and add 1 to the score. Okay, so I'm going to leave that part visible because that was a lot of words and I want to make sure that I'm getting it all right. So the first thing I'm going to do is I need an if statement, and I'm down here at line 84, enemy touches water. So if enemy 1, what did it say? If enemy 1 y value is below 140. So I'm going to get a less than. This is where it's important to know the difference between greater than and less than. So if enemy 1y, if enemy 1y is less than, they said 140. Oops, typing. Hello, 140. So if enemy 1y is less than 140, I want to reset set enemy 1, and I also add 1 to the score. So it's this block right here, and I do score gets score plus 1. Score gets score plus 1. Then, in this next one, if enemy 1 y is greater than, if enemy 1 y, if enemy 1y is greater than 260, where did I get this number? Right here, okay? If enemy 1y is greater than 260, then we're going to set enemy 1, and we're going to increase the score by 1. Okay. And that's score plus 1. All right, now, before I create anything for enemy 2, I want to test enemy 1. So I believe it's that, whoops. Can I, woo. My dude moves too far. Push him off the screen. Man, I suck at this. If I push him off the screen, yep, do I get extra points? All right, so now that I've tested, albeit poorly tested, enemy 1, I'm going to now create the same thing for enemy 2. So what I'm going to do, watch me carefully, I'm going to go to show text. I'm going to highlight, starting here, I'm going to highlight these two if statements, and that is Command C for copy. I'm going to come down here to the bottom. Notice that there's still another bracket there. And I'm going to go Command V for paste. Now what's the difference? Here, I'm going to go back to show text. So enemy touches water. I've now got an enemy 1 less than 140, enemy 1 y greater than 260. I need to turn these ones I just pasted into enemy 2. I'll go in here and change all the set enemies to 2 instead of 1. And of course, if you're not that good at copy paste, sorry about all of the distractions today, folks. If you are not that good at copy paste, you are welcome to do the drag and drop. So here it is, ladies and gentlemen. I'm sure your game will be much better than, your hand-eye coordination is a lot better than mine, and that's okay. But the block of codes that we just added are from lines 84 down to 101. They're central on your screen. If you'd like to hit pause so that you can see these, go right ahead. If you are ready to move forward, hit finish. Da-da-da! Oh my goodness. All right, so level 13, we've got some challenges. High score background, randomize enemy speed, change the visuals, and end the game. So what we're going to do here is we're going to stop our video for now. I would like to challenge you all to try these challenges on your own and let me know what you think about them. All right, happy coding.